artists often are drivers of where real estate investment occurs, right?
Yeah.
If you follow where artists are moving, they're often then creating an environment that is one that really improves the quality of life in the area where they've moved to. And then other businesses will open as a result of artists already having moved there. And you can almost chart the path of real estate development by looking at where artists were moving and what they were doing.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the show. Today's guest, Aaron Yassin, is a builder in New York City and the Catskills in New York. He's an award-winning architectural designer and on a mission to design and build better homes. You can find him and his team at hivedevelopers.nyc. Aaron, thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to talk to you, Dylan.
I always like to start off at the top of the show, really by asking folks how they got started in real estate. But here, I want to take things in a different direction. I know that you're passionate about design specifically. Has design always been at the forefront for you as a developer and a builder? And if not, when did that become pertinent for you?
That's a great question. And actually one I haven't gotten in that specifically in that way before. So I really appreciate it. So my background and something that's still very pertinent for me today is that I'm an artist. I actively make artwork, and I've always actively made artwork, and I've also done a lot of design work. And there's a strong connection with my own artwork in architecture, in space, and architectural thinking. And I think that this actually is, and again, when you asked the question, I thought, that's actually something I haven't thought about precisely in that way. And it sheds light on my thinking, really, that I got into real estate. So I'll answer that question as well, because it's connected, because I was always looking for space, as a lot of artists are, to have a studio in some place that you can really control, right? Rather than, renting or leasing, or in a position where you might have to move out. So one of the first assets that I purchased was a building that I did have my artist studio in. But the third asset that I purchased was one that offered a development opportunity. And because of my background and my focus on thinking about design and on making things, that really appealed to me. The idea that I could create something that wasn't there before. I was very young, and I think that can be a good and bad, right? You don't know what you don't know, and you may barrel forward and then hope for the best. Fortunately, it generally worked out. Sometimes it doesn't. But I was thinking about those those ideas that were really connected to how I think, which is really about making things.
You hit on something that I have not heard before from an investor, which is, you're an artist, and an artist always needs a studio.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
When I'm thinking about artwork, I'm thinking about like hand to paper canvas, that type of artwork. What was the artwork that you were involved in at the time?
Well, at the time, I was doing a variety of different work. Definitely, there was some work on canvas, but I worked with photography and installation, and some new media as well. So you definitely need a space to set things up and create things in that context. Even if you're just working on paper or canvas, still having a permanent space is really valuable.
But people think a lot about, this idea of the starving artist. But I've seen now all over the country, beautiful, what looks like very much, I would call it like industrial chic art studios, right? And sometimes they'll be available to the public, sometimes it'll be privatized. Are these typically owned by artists themselves, or is that a separate facet of the business? Meaning, it might be an investor who owns the place, but the artists themselves do not own the
Yeah,
studio.
generally, there's very few artists that are able to think through how to organize and purchase real estate. Although there are others that have purchased buildings and spaces that I know as well. So it's not completely uncommon, but it is definitely more rare as a subset. The one other related, particularly to definitely to your question, related component of this is that artists often are drivers of where real estate investment occurs, right? If
Yeah.
you follow where artists are moving, they're often then creating an environment that is one that really improves the quality of life in the area where they've moved to. And then other businesses will open as a result of artists already having moved there, and maybe they move because they have studio space there, and then they move because they're living there. And this definitely drives real estate trends. I mean, I'm in New York City, and this has
Yeah.
been a key driver. If you look at some of the most valuable markets in the city, those markets were really driven by, artists who were, might have been called pioneers at the time, moving to places like Soho and Tribeca, and then the East Village, and then out to Williamsburg. And you can almost chart the path of real estate development by looking at where artists were moving and what they were doing. And this is something similar in other markets as well.
I think now more than ever, you're seeing this idea of, hey, we're going to revitalize this space. I've seen it. I'm licensed as a realtor in Texas. I spend a lot of time in Florida. You have this idea of, hey, we're not gonna remove the history here, but we're going to modernize it or adapt it in a way to reimagine it, right? And that's not something that a strictly real estate mind can do. You need to have a design mind. But then as well, and aside from this, you're also seeing that when people are making their purchasing decisions, even for a single family home, that they are tending to favor homes that were built through a lens of design versus, a cookie cutter mold.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, design gives us so much in so many different ways. In when you have anything that you have. You can start from small objects that you might hold in your hand to buildings that you live in or that you work in, and even beyond that to cultural projects and infrastructure projects. That when things are designed well, even if you don't look at it and name it, you feel it and you know it intrinsically. And when it is done well, it really does improve the quality of your life.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
On many levels.
Now, when we talk about design and new construction in New York City, I was mentioning to you before hopping on here, the idea of new construction in New York City seems like an impossible thing to do. It almost seems like, where is the new construction in New York City? Where's the available land, right? Uh, Walk me through how you got into new construction in New York City. And then also too, what's the timeline when we're talking about this? Because when I and other folks listening to this are hearing this, they're probably thinking that's got to be a long process.
Well, it can potentially be a long process, but it depends on what the project is. So again, just going back to my answer earlier, with a third project that I got into, did include an opportunity for development. It wasn't a ground up development. There was a existing building, and that building remained. So, in technical terms, the plans were filed as an Alt 1, which is an alteration application to the Department of Buildings. It was long enough ago now that the plan set, which is kind of the number of sheets of drawings, was far fewer than what you have today. So the you know, and in the, although it was some time ago, it wasn't so long ago that the amount of sheets that you have seems like it makes sense by comparison, because it could be 3 or more times the number of sheets, which is significant. It's gotten much more difficult to build in New York, and certainly all the talk about affordability, and it's not just in New York, but all over the country, which definitely relates to building and to housing. Is partly driven by regulation in markets, again, all across the country. Some are more highly regulated, but there's regulation everywhere, and particularly in most submarkets that need the most housing. You're dealing with urban areas, even urban suburban areas, and in those markets, there's always going to be some type of regulation. So there's regulation in New York, so that's certainly a factor. So I went from that project, and there were enough successes completing that project, even with all of the difficulty. I wanted to focus the work that I was doing, through a transition from some other work that I was doing, into a focus on development and controlling the design and the thinking behind the building and the end product. And to do that, really developing ground up is what made the most sense. Understanding that it's very challenging, was something that I was aware of kind of getting into it. So, but it was really a desire that I had to take that on, and to just believe that it was possible. And also perhaps, I like to do things that are probably more difficult than what a lot of people like to do. So I thought, sure, I can do it. Why not? Why not? So, maybe some days I regret it, but I think the value of what you can get when you're doing new development, definitely still speaks for itself when you finish.
Now, when we talk about development in New York City, for folks who are not familiar with New York, you've got so many different parts of New York. Of course, you've got the five boroughs, but you've also got neighborhoods within those boroughs. Where are the areas that you have experience developing, or even looking at deals in New York?
Well, I'm mostly familiar with certain submarkets. I live in Brooklyn. I'm very familiar with Brooklyn. the majority of the borough of Brooklyn I have pretty good familiarity with. Manhattan, south of 125th Street, pretty good submarket knowledge there as well. And then several submarkets in Queens as well. My focus is on originating condominium development. There's in any market, there's different asset classes. And there's different reasons why you might approach different asset classes. So that asset class has been my focus. So in terms of looking for development sites.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
I'm focused on looking for sites where it would make sense to develop a for sale product. So it's not going to be in every submarket or in every location within a submarket that may work. I try to stay away from very busy streets or corners that feel problematic. You just try to think about from the the end point, right? Where do people want to live? Particularly people that are going to be buying something, right? Who are you serving with what you're doing, right? And this is something that pertains to all real estate, because ultimately, even if you're very investor focused and you're focused on ensuring returns for your investors, you also need to think about who it is that the real estate is serving, because and if you focus on that, that is what is going to ensure your returns for your investors, whether it's a triple net lease type of asset or single family home or a condominium. If you create the best environment for who that end user is, that's going to be the best approach you can take to the asset that you're focused on. So I'm thinking about that when I'm looking at development sites. What could be done on this site, and how could that appeal to someone who would end up looking at this location? Not the product itself, because there's more to the product, but to the location. Is this a location that someone coming to a building that I would put my time and energy into would be excited about and would have the right metrics that would drive more value? Location is obviously always critical.
Now, when we talk about acquisition, I'm thinking this has got to be an interesting case, because it's not like there's vacant land. And I'm also imagining that these aren't infill lots either. But what comes to mind immediately, I'm probably off base here, is some level of distress. So properties where there's an opportunity to do some type of value add, or where it might make sense to build up from the ground and tear it down. What is your acquisition strategy, and how are you finding deals?
Um, Most deals, I would say, are coming through a variety of different brokers. There's not, even if they tell you it's off market, anyone that sends you a deal, that means the deal's on the market, right? Whether it's publicly listed or not. I think that there's always some question around that. If someone's sending you a deal that's not publicly listed, they can arguably say it's off market, but still, if they're sending it around, obviously it's being listed and it's on a market of some sort. So, it's New York. If you're trying to sell something, you're going to talk to people that, it's going to get around. And I, get people that contact me regularly that are from major brokerage firms all the way down to people that might come across a listing that they might think would appeal to something that I would be looking for. And yes, you're 100% correct that nearly every property has been built on in the city. Not 100%. So there are occasions where you can find a vacant piece of land that might have been used as a parking lot, or maybe there's just a partial single story building on it. That's a rare possibility, but it does exist. Typically, what you're looking at are a couple of things from a development standpoint. Sites that have much older properties on them that where over the years that location has been rezoned. So what can be built is significantly larger. And then you're always talking about the total buildable square feet for an existing property. So for the development site, how much can you actually build on it? And then value is determined based on the number of square feet that you can build, and your working calculations based on that. And there's always various complexities for a purchase. I'm looking at a property, or several properties. It would be an assemblage right now where there are 3 older wood frame buildings, and they're all 100 plus years old. And not honestly, not in great condition. And based on the location that they're at, uh, one, there's not any specific historical value to these properties. And two, there's a lot more that can be built on the properties themselves. And since there's so much need for housing in New York, this is a kind of site where demolishing the existing buildings really makes sense. Although there's lots of examples in New York City of buildings that have been demolished that possibly shouldn't have been demolished. And you can get into the classic story of the old Penn Station that was an amazing building and should not have been demolished. So
When did
this
that happen?
Oh, it happened quite a while ago when the Garden was built, right? Madison Square Gardens replaced Penn Station, and there's a lot of controversy still surrounding that, and even with some interest of people rebuilding the old Penn Station. So there's continuous discussion about that, and then that set off a whole wave of historic preservation, and actually led to Grand Central Station being saved because there was discussion of demolishing that as well. So, some pluses and minuses, and there's always lots of discussions and in different ways. And these really play into how development can occur. And in any market, any urban market, these discussions are going to come up. And there will be public-private involvement in determining what can be built, and then that determines the value of properties.
Now, when you're looking at these projects through the design lens, walk me through, where the biggest value add you see are versus, when people are not looking at things through the design lens and they're just looking at it through bottom line and location, but not thinking about design and how that translates to demand.
Well, it's very important to have a vision for what it is that you're building. And as I was discussing earlier, really thinking about the end user experience. That's a focus of how I think. What is the experience of someone who's actually living in the building? And even on the architecture side, there are a lot of architects that start designing buildings from the outside in, right? Because they're concerned about how it's going to look, like what the facade looks like or what the envelope looks like. Because really, more people will see that than the number of people that are going to live in the property, right? So that's a strong concern from a designer standpoint. I Obviously that's of critical importance what the outside of the building looks like, but the experience of the building on the inside really needs to be the focus, and you need to think about the building from the inside out. What's the experience of the person living in the building, in the apartment, right? And how can you design apartments that make sense and that take that experience to a better place? And that's really the focus that I have when I'm thinking about design and looking at a project site. And so you want to have certain metrics that are possible with the development site that you're looking at. You need to achieve it, be able to, and it's the balancing act, kind of the juggling that you're doing, right? Because with all real estate, you need a spreadsheet. There's just no way to get around it. I mean, you can kind of cowboy it, but at some point, it's only going to get you so far, right? And you're gonna run into problems. And the more detailed your underwriting model and your spreadsheet is, the better off you're going to be. So I will say and confirm that any development project does start and end with a spreadsheet, but it shouldn't only exist as a spreadsheet, because then you have something that is designed in a spreadsheet. And that's not really design. That's just approaching the numbers themselves and trying to get the numbers to work. And that doesn't mean that what you've built or what you've renovated or what you're offering for an end user is going to give them what they really, really need. And that's where it will drive your numbers, right?
Right.
So if you can focus on that end user, really try to think through who they are. And again, New York City, there's different submarkets and there's different potential end users that will move to different neighborhoods. You want to think about who that is, who is the building serving, what is it about, and can you design the kinds of layouts that are going to appeal to the people that this neighborhood would appeal to, and also factor in the right kind of amenities within a building that would appeal to those people that in my case that I'll be selling to. And there are sites that I've looked at where it's just not possible to achieve the type of building that I would want to design and build. In those, you have to pass on. Maybe the numbers work reasonably well, but that doesn't mean that you're going to have the opportunity to really take it to the next level, right? I want sites where you can take something to the next level. So you need the base numbers to work, and then you need a vision on top of it of what it is that you're building.
Now, are all of these for sale or are some of them for rent as well?
For my focus is really on for sale product. So
Now,
there's a lot of rentals being built in New York City, and the city government is very focused on building rentals. It's not my focus, and I wish they would consider how they could provide more opportunity for people to buy their homes. I think it's really valuable when people own their homes and they really are feel like they can stay in a neighborhood permanently.
yeah, I mean, that's something that I've talked about with a lot of younger people, but also folks who are trying to get into the on ramp of home ownership and feeling like, gosh, not only do I need to be able to come up with the down payment, but I've also got to have in many cases, like in New York City and where I grew up in northern New Jersey, you've got to have really a stellar income in order to justify the mortgage, even if you've got a large down payment. So then it becomes an issue of, how am I going to get into the on ramp of home ownership? But
I mean, that's the case as well if you're renting. The metric in New York City is that your income is 40 times your monthly rent.
yeah,
So,
it's
and if you're looking at kind of average pricing for, let's say, a two-bedroom apartment, really between like $6,000 and $8,000, you got to have a pretty decent income at that level. And that is, I do think part of one of the issues that we're having now. Some people that think they should leave the city because if they can't find something to buy, then it can be hard to justify paying 7,000 to 8,000 bucks a month when you feel like you would like to put some roots down and actually own something, even if it costs you a little bit more.
Now, when people talk about design for sale specifically, I've seen this working. Of course, not in New York, in a different market where I'm licensed in Texas. But I've seen this where there are. I don't know about currently because I'm not there right now. But about 6 months ago, there was high days on market for new homes or even flip homes, right? And so homes that by all standards would have been flying off the shelves 4 or 5 years ago, we're sitting for sometimes 3 months, right? But almost like clockwork, like you would see a home that you could tell, hey, that's a well designed home. And this is from someone, I don't have a design eye. I just can say, hey, that's clearly someone put in effort to either hire a designer or they themselves are a designer or they've done this before because there's clearly a theme there. And you can see that it sticks out from the rest. It looks custom, right? Those homes fly off the shelves. Like they won't even be on the MLS for like a week until they're under contract. Do you see this as a trend that more builders and developers will start to look at things through a design first lens, or maybe design second, because of course you've got to have the spreadsheet, or is that still something that's not fully caught on yet?
Well, I've got a couple of points there to answer that question with. One, with the proliferation of a lot of media that that's happened, in the last 15, 20 years. More people think they're designers, right? So people think that, oh, well, I can do this too. You can, you know, go get on Pinterest and put a Pinterest board together and think that this is going to give you enough understanding of how to design something well. I think that it helps, and I appreciate that people are thinking that way and looking at things, but that's not necessarily going to translate to success. There's a lot more involved with achieving a good design than people that haven't really gone through the process at the level of involvement that it requires can understand. And it gets very detailed and very involved, and small differences can have a huge impact. Um, I mean, you could design a palette of a group of materials and then find out, oh, well, this tile or this wood floor isn't available. I'll just swap it out for something else. But that may not work, and it may clash with the other materials that you've chosen in ways that don't work, that really works very poorly. And you're not thinking through what the feeling of the whole space looks like and taking the time to understand it and ensuring that it will work. And there are ways in which this can be done um, from a design standpoint that are required to achieve good results. So I think that, yes, there are a lot of people that involved in real estate and real estate investing that get it conceptually, but have a harder time really implementing it and often don't want to pay someone else to do it. So there's a lot of challenges involved in being successful on the development side. This is not an easy thing to do. And there's also there's lots of cases where you know, architects that have great reputations have been hired, and then there's friction from commercial clients, developer clients, because there's different demands, and those can create problems as well. So there's fewer. I would say the best projects are fewer and further between. In the best projects that also are successful as development projects, there are even fewer of those. And when I say that, I mean projects where the design serves the end user in the best way possible, but it also serves the investors in the project by understanding what the budgets are and what's required to ensure that those budgets are met in a timely manner while keeping that end user in mind. It's a complicated process.
Here, of course, without people getting advanced degrees, are there ways where people can get certified in design or contracting and design? What would be the pathway forward for someone to understand things from a design perspective?
Well, I think the first thing that you need to do is really to start looking, and looking at and then evaluating what it is that you're looking at. And sometimes really talking about it, like speaking out loud about it. Why do I like a certain thing? What is it that appeals to me? I mean, we can go to examples of works of architecture that many people will agree are great works of architecture. You have to think through intellectually what makes it better. How do you evaluate it? And then how can you employ that level of evaluation into something that you might be doing yourself? So, and there are ways that you can learn these things, or there's obviously books, there's lots of videos of people talking about design. There are, simple ways to do it. But what I would advise people to do as well is to, particularly that are involved in real estate and even, doing value add projects, understand the mechanics of how to implement that kind of design thinking to your project. And that's going to incorporate some actual deliverable documents like what's often called an FF&E schedule. That's furniture, fixture, and equipment schedule, where you're then going to put the specifications for different materials and finishes that are in your building onto a sheet, and then you're going to also have columns in that will have the cost for them, the lead time, where you're ordering them from, and then you can start to look at everything together. They should also be laid out and organized so you can look at materials and material swatches, and then doing mock-ups is extraordinarily valuable. We have great opportunity to do visualization these days and putting materials together. Even now, this augmented reality, you can scan your phone around a space you might be renovating, and you could potentially add some materials into your augmented reality and look and try to see what it looks like in the space. Right. So that gives you a better sense of the effective scale on the material selections that you're looking at and considering. So there are some clear steps that can be taken, and it's easy to get information on what those steps are. And then trial and error is terrific as well. And perhaps just hiring someone to assist with that component of a project if someone hasn't done it before.
We are coming up on time here. I was going to ask you some questions specifically about design in the single family space, which we touched a little bit on. But we are coming up on time here. Where can folks in our audience go to reach out to you or your team? How can folks get in contact with you?
Great, thanks. I appreciate that question. So as we've been talking about design, I've got a very easy place for someone to go to connect with me. You can go to the website designdrivesvalue.com. Again, that's designdrivesvalue.com. And when you go to that link, there's a short ebook that you can download that talks about some of the things that talks about some of the things I've been talking about today. And then you'll get to a location on the website where you can easily connect with me. You can also find me very easily on LinkedIn. It's Aaron Yassin, Yassin. I'm sure it's going to be in the show notes. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to talk to people that have questions about anything that they're doing that relates to my areas of expertise. So anyone that wants to reach out, please do so, and I'd be happy to talk to you.
Aaron, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for taking the time today.
That was great. Thank you very much, Dylan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.